So good day everyone. Our discussion for today it's all about the subject-verb agreement. But before anything else, let's read our learning objectives. So here is our learning objectives. First, explain the importance of subject-verb agreement. Last, discuss the actual basic rules of subject-verb agreement. When we say subject-verb agreement, means that a subject and its verb must both a singular or plural. A singular takes a singular verb. A plural subject takes a singular verb also. In subject-verb agreement, it has 12 basic rules to be followed. And the first rule is, if the subject is singular, the verb must be singular too. The first rule states that if the subject is singular, we need a singular verb also. Take a look at the example. She writes every day. Obviously, our subject is she, which is singular. That's why our verb has an S. Because when we say singular, our verb must have an S at the end. That's why she writes every day. The second example is, they are currently in a managerial role at the organization. Our subject is they and our verb are. They is our plural subject and are is our plural verb. Our second rule is, if the subject is plural, the verb must also be plural. So, take a look at the example. They write every day. They is our subject and write is our verb. They is a plural subject and write, which is plural verb. So second example is, the dogs chase the cat. So our subject, dogs, which is plural, chase our verb, which is the plural. The third rule is, when the subject of the sentence is composed of two or more nouns or pronouns connected by and, use a plural verb. So, in the rule number 3 is, when the subject is composed of two or more nouns or pronouns and it is connected by and, use a plural form of verb. Like for example, the doctoral student and the committee members write every day. Our subject is the doctoral student and the committee members. That is our plural subject. That's why we use plural verb write, which is write. And the second example is, the percentage of employees who called in sick and the number of employees who left their jobs within 2 years are reflected of the level of job satisfaction. So obviously, our subject is the percentage of employees who called in sick and the number of employees who left their jobs within 2 years, which is a plural subject. That's why we need a plural verb, which is are. The fourth rule is, when there is one subject and more than one verb, the verbs throughout the sentence must agree with the subject. So the rule number 4 says that if there is one subject and more than one verb, the verb must agree with the subject, just like the example. Interviews are one way to collect data and allow researchers to gain an in-depth understanding of participants. Obviously, our subject is interviews, which is plural. That's why we use plural form of verbs, which is are and allow. The second example is, an assumption is something that is generally accepted as true and is an important consideration when conducting a doctoral study. So, obviously, our subject is an assumption, which is singular form of the subject. That's why we need a singular verb also, which is the is and is, because in this rule we have more than one verb, which is the is and is. The fifth rule is when a phrase comes between the subject and the verb, remember that the verb still agrees with the subject, not the noun or pronoun in the phrase following the subject of the sentence. Just like the example, the student with all the master's degrees is very motivated. Our subject is the student, which is a singular, and we use a singular verb because in rule number 5, the verb must agree with the subject. The rule number 6 is when two or more singular nouns or pronouns are connected by or nor, use a singular verb. So the example is the chairperson or the CEO approves the proposal before proceeding. So obviously our subject is the chairperson or the CEO, which is singular, and we need a singular form of the verb, which is approves. Rule number 7. When a compound subject contains both a singular, a plural noun or pronoun joined by or nor, the verb should agree with the part of the subject that is closest to the verb. This is called the rule of proximity. Just like for the example, the student or the committee members write every day. We use a plural verb, which is write, because according to the rule number 7, the subject that is closest to the verb must agree with the subject, which is our subject is the committee members. And the second example is the committee members or the student writes every day. In this stage is we use a singular form of the verb, which is writes, because the subject that is closest to the verb, the student, which is singular. Rule number 8. The words or phrases each one, either, neither, everyone, everybody, anyone, anybody, nobody, somebody, someone, and no one are singular and require a singular verb. Just like for example, each of the participants was willing to be recorded. Our subject is each, which is singular, and our verb, the verb is singular also, which is was, because the action was already done. Another example is no one was available to meet with me at the preferred times. So our subject is no one, which is singular, and we use singular verb was because the action was already done. Rule number 9. Non-count nouns take a singular verb, just like for example, education is the key to success. Education our subject, and is our verb, which is singular. Second example is diabetes affects many people around the world. So our subject is diabetes, and our verb is affects. Rule number 10. Some countable nouns in English, such as earnings, goods, ads, surroundings, proceeds, contents, and valuables, only have a plural form and take a plural verb. Just like for the example, the earnings for this quarter exceed expectations. So obviously, the earnings is our plural subject, and exceed is our plural verb. And another example is locally produced goods have the advantage of shorter supply chains. So our Our plural subject is locally produced goods and our plural verb is have. Rule number 11. In sentences beginning with there is or there are, the subject follows the verb. Since there is not the subject, the verb agrees with what follows the verb. Just like for the example, there is a little administrative support. So our subject here is administrative support, which is singular. So that's why we use a singular verb. And the second example is there are many factors affecting teacher retention. Our subject is factors, which is plural, and we use plural form of the verb, which is are. The 12th rule or the last rule is collective nouns are words that imply more than one person but are considered singular and take a singular verb. Some examples are group, team, committee, family, and class. Just like for example, the group meets every week. The group is our singular subject and we use a singular verb, which is meets. The second one is the committee agrees on the quality of the writing. The committee is our singular subject and we use singular form of the verb, which is agrees. And here is the purpose of my discussion about subject-verb agreement. It's crucial to make sure that subjects and verbs are consistent. The foundation of grammatically sound English writing is the link between subjects and verbs. A phrase is more cohesive and understandable when the subject and verb agree. That's all. Thank you and hope you will learn something today. God bless us all.